Hi, this is Harvey at Figaholics. I'm going to show a grafting demonstration today. I've done different types of grafting, and this method is called modified rind bark graft. And I like to use this more when a scion is maybe from 10% to 33% of the diameter of the rootstock that I'm grafting. So here I have a skinny scion, and so this is real ideal for this type of graft. I've got an existing fig tree that I bought from a nursery. I've already cut off the top. It was about 4 feet tall. One thing I like to do, that even though I cut this several hours ago, it gets a lot of sap flow. I like to cut around, just some superficial cuts to help interrupt any more sap flow. I'm going to make a fresh cut at the top here. Then I'm going to prepare my scion. Really only need 1 or 2 buds, but this bud doesn't look so good here. This is a nice bud here. This is a little bit longer than I need. One thing that I fail to tell people sometimes when I graft, when I'm grafting, I look at the bud location when I'm deciding where to make my cuts. I like this to be above my graft union so it gets good growth right away. If it's on the other side of the scion, it's going to be slower to get started. So what I did is just cut straight up, approximately halfway through the scion, cutting basically a step here. Now I've cut a little bit more of a cut on that side there. This is going to be dead material here, so I trim, clean it up. Try to get a flat cut. So now I'll use my knife blade, and I can see it's nice and flat. Now on the back side, this wood back here really serves no useful purpose. Some people say not to make contact with your skin against it. I don't really personally think it makes much difference. Now before I place the scion, I don't want this to dry out. I don't want to be wiggling after I have it in place, so I wrap my scion beforehand. This is called Nesco Film. It's not available any longer. It's similar to parafilm. I just like it. It's a little bit better, stretches better. I bought up a many-year supply before the supplies were depleted. But parafilm works fine. There's a version called buddy tape. So I just wrap it up down to where the union is going to be. Now I try to pick an area that, ideally sort of a flat area. Also I look at either one of these sides is okay. If one side is flatter than the other, sometimes you get really curvy scion, and one side is flat, the other side isn't. So I look at where it's going to be. I'll go ahead and make a cut up and down. Now I pull back the bark. Just on one side. One side is undisturbed. I don't want to tear it if possible, so I just insert it in here. And so it butts up against this edge over here. Over here the bark is loose and comes up across it. You can use any kind of rubber band. These are grafting rubber that are sold specifically for this purpose. They're strong. This helps secure it in place so it doesn't move. Over time, when the scion heals and starts growing, the rubber band will stretch, and eventually with sun it'll degrade and it'll break. Just wrap it over itself, pull it in place, trim off the excess rubber band, and then with the rest of my film, I go ahead and cover that portion. Some people put the rubber band on top of the parafilm. I like to get the scion held securely in place before I do any moving around, and this is pretty much the way I always do it, and it works out well for me. One thing about this rind bark graft, it seems to be the fastest sort of growing graft that I make. So that's all secured in place. One thing that's not talked about a lot is ideal temperatures for callousing. It's different for different species. Figs like warm weather. You know, if it's 75 to 85 degrees, it's good temperature. You want to put it out in direct sunlight. If it's 85 outside and the sun is hitting, it's going to be a lot hotter than 85. If you've got a fig tree that's in the ground and the weather's kind of cool, you maybe want to graft this to where it's, at least in the northern hemisphere, this is on the south side of your branch. So it's getting some warm sunlight hitting that direction. On the other hand, if you're having some warm 85, 90 degree days, you might do it on the north side to where it's in the shade some. Because high temperatures also defeat the callousing process. So let's take a close look at this again. Again, this scion, you know, it's just stepped onto one side of it. Half of it was cut away, and the rest of it wedged, inserted into that. The bark flaps over it, and it's all sealed. This type of graft, a modified rind bark graft, we can maybe see growth in 3 to 5 days. Within a week, usually, if the weather is ideal. Thanks for watching.